Welcome to my virtual campfire. I'm Crystal Kelly. It is times like these that our ancestors would have started telling stories around a campfire, searching for meaning in our existence. We all have our Corona stories to tell. Think of our phone as the warm glow of a virtual campfire. Each week, listen to stories from all over the world about how we, as humans, fit into the vibrations of Mother Nature and the universe. Collectively, let's co-create a future through conversation and storytelling and music. With love. I'm so happy to have you here on this virtual campfire in the morning, like you said. I love that that we're able to check something off your bucket list today.
This is definitely a first. But I think I might like it. I might make this a habit.
Okay, I love it.
I got it checked off the bucket list. Campfire in the morning.
Okay, it's awesome. So I think, these conversations, I don't plan exactly where they're going to go or anything, but there's always things that I'm interested in people and why we're connected. And the one thing is, I don't really know you that well, but I feel like we're connected. And it's really through clean water. I mean, that's the way that we know each other, is through Leon and the Clean Water Foundation. And I know that clean water is something that I hold very, very close to my heart, and the actions that I take are always surrounding like healing Mother Earth. That's kind of my mission in life. And my dad in high school used to call me a damn tree hugger. So it's kind of just how I am. But what's your relationship with water, and how are you connected to water?
Well, Crystal, that's a great question. And I guess I'll start at the beginning. Start at the source. At the source. That's what you do with water. I worked as an executive with a major municipal water system on the West Coast for, going on 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I met Leon probably 13 years ago in working with him as he was being awarded one of the top honors by the American Waterworks Association for his work, which we now are in 32 countries. And so 12 years I've been working, I call myself a strategic advisor. I love that role. I can advise, but I don't have to do, and my advice cannot be taken. So no harm, no foul. So what a job to just be advising. Extensive experience in a municipal water system here on one of the major cities on the West Coast for close to 20 years. Prior to that, my background has been in human resource management. I'm a certified human resource professional, as well as a SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resource Management, a senior human resource manager. So I've had those designations. I don't want to give my age away. You can really tell I'm a young fellow at heart.
Exactly.
I've had those designations since the late 80s. Probably my crowning accomplishment is my two sons and my wife. I've got two boys that I'm just so proud and so much love that every day I'm afraid my heart's going to explode.
Oh,
my oldest is a chiropractor down in Silicon Valley, and my youngest is a tech executive here with a firm in Bellevue. Both boys have gotten engaged within a month of one another, and I adore their fiancés.
Oh, that's just wonderful.
Oh, just feel so privileged. Went to school, have a degree out of Florida International University, originally from the Chicago area, was where I was raised. My dad was an educator. He worked at the Virginia Polytechnic Institute in Blacksburg, then got his PhD at the University of Chicago, where he taught for many years. And then his last role was here in the Pacific Northwest at the University of British Columbia, where he chaired the Department of Adult Education. I've told you about my wife. I should show you a picture. She is,
Yeah.
I'm not worthy. I'm looking
well,
at,
you know, our podcast is will, you know, it'll just be audio, so we wouldn't be able to see the picture, but I can always share things on the link.
good. I'm trying to pull it up, but you know what? I'm going to give you my undivided attention. Now you know a little something more about me. What about you, Crystal?
So, well, you know, if you want to start from the beginning, I guess, I went to school for broadcast journalism, and I always thought that I was going to work in TV news and broadcast. I thought that it was empowering. Thought that it was a very powerful position and thing to do to help educate people. You know, I think that anyway, I went to the University of Washington, and I worked in TV news and broadcast for 7 years, and I was living the dream. I worked for CBS, for Fox, for ABC. I was an independent contractor, so I could go work on projects. And I really thought that's what I thought. I was living my path. And you know, after working in media for 7 years, it was a system that it wasn't what I expected. I thought that there was such thing as freedom of speech. I thought that we were delivering messages that were helpful to people. And what I felt like after 7 years is that I was a part of propagating fear and things that weren't true to my heart. And so with a very heavy decision, I decided to leave media in like the network sort of way. And I truly became an independent journalist, writing my own stories and making my own content. I worked on documentary projects that took me to Siberia, that have really, I end up connecting with a lot of indigenous people, a lot of medicine people, shaman, energy workers, musicians, people who really vibrate energy at like a higher level. And so, you know, my path has taken not the way that I thought. You know, when you step out of the network, your voice becomes very small. And you don't have that power of the mainstream media anymore. But it's a decision that I'm extremely happy that I took. I have 3 daughters, and so being independent allows me to spend more time with them, and that's I think probably been the best decision. In order to support my family, I sell real estate. My business partner and I call ourselves the Seattle Dreammakers, and we, you know, it's how we get by and how I'm allowed to also work on my creative projects, things like this podcast and the books that I write, and you know, the videos that I make. And so so the project that you and I are connected with of bringing clean water to the Hopi and Navajo tribe, it's very, very dear to me because one of my mentors is a Navajo wisdom keeper, and I've been working with her for over 10 years, really spreading her wisdoms, and she calls it living the loving way. And so I believe that what you and Leon are doing to bring clean water to the Hopi and Navajo tribes is really right, just completely in line with living the loving way. It's a way of, you know, really helping people that that need help, and that hold those wisdoms that protect our Earth Mother. And so yeah, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, who I am. It's kind of a long description, but we're all multifaceted, multidimensional creatures, so there's a lot to say.
Well, I tell you, thank you so much for sharing. Wow. A couple of things. One, I think all of us, serendipity plays a huge role. I know very few people that knew when they were 5, 6, 7 years old, I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a lawyer. And they stayed that course and retired in that career. But that's far and few between. Most of us, as long as our ears are open to opportunity, as long as we're willing to listen, you never know who's going to be put in front of you. And you never know, we just don't know, but you have to be open to those. Couple more comments. Seattle Dream Makers. What a tagline. I love it, because think about it. Your home is, for most people, the single biggest asset. And here in Seattle, we are just blessed with so much waterfront, so much natural beauty. As you shared when we spoke yesterday, you were out on Lincoln Park here, Fauntleroy. For those unfamiliar, that's where the ferry terminal that takes off for Vashon Island. And it is a spectacular walk. About a third of a mile down this path is a saltwater pool, a public saltwater pool of 50 meters long that is summertime, it's packed. And it's got a beautiful glass windscreen. So you can walk outside and look in at all the kids playing and people exercising, swimming laps. It's spectacular. This concept as well, another thought, the indigenous people that you have connected with and listened to and learned from, particularly the wisdom keeper there at the Navajo, living the loving way. Again, I've got to digest that, living the loving way, because it is, when it all is said and done, that's all we got. Because last time I checked, when we do leave this physical existence, we don't take any physical assets with us. Don't take a dime with us. So if your life is full of love, you are going to have a very fulfilled existence. So let's continue to let this conversation be organic. It will go well. It will go. And once again, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no, it's and I love where these conversations go, because like I said, I don't have any preconceived ideas. I know that I have things that I'm curious about people. So I always wonder, like you said, there aren't really any coincidences. Things happen, and we just have to decide how we're going to use these synchronicities. And I think when you follow with your heart, doors open, and people open up, and really hopefully that leads to problem solving, and to because I don't think it's any mystery that there are problems in this world. We have a lot of shadow work to do, but I'm just a big optimist, I guess. But I like to think that we contain the solutions to the problems that were made in the past. And I think Einstein is the one that said you can't change problems by the frame of mind that created them. I'm probably quoting this completely wrong, but it's that idea of we need to shift our mindset in order to move forward, I believe.
It's the definition of insanity that he coined, and that is expecting a different result while doing the same things. It doesn't happen. One other thing that I guess, and words are so important. The word problem is problematic. It conjures up somebody or something needs fixing. And I prefer the word opportunity. There are opportunities for us. Problems, again, have the negative. You got a problem, or I got a problem with you. But You know what? Here's an opportunity. If you were to develop this further, you'd be even more successful. If we were able to create this, we'd even have a better quality of life, better existence on this planet. So I'd encourage you to consider just flip-flopping those. When you think problems, say, oh, there's an opportunity here.
I think you're right. And Patricia, the Navajo wisdom keeper, she says that we live in a world, well, the English language is an inverse language in the way that it's the opposite of a positive language. It dwells on the negative. So you're absolutely right. I think that changing the word from problem to opportunity is exactly the way that we need to be shifting. You know, I think that's the one of the shifts in a very positive direction. I think that there's so many opportunities every day in our daily lives to make choices. And so I think that, you know, you can make those choices really positive, or you can choose other things. But I always choose to try to make the best of what I'm given on a daily basis.
Sounds like you're accomplishing that. Hey, do you mind if I circle back to another comment you made earlier?
Yeah.
You mentioned that in your work as a contract journalist that you've traveled the world and worked very closely with Indigenous and Aboriginal people. One place that you mentioned, Siberia, I've not been, but I'd love to hear what did you like most about your time there, and what did you like least about your time in Siberia?
Yeah, so when I was getting ready to go to Siberia, I thought in my mind, it felt like I was going to the moon. Like I was like, I'm going somewhere out of this world. Like this is kind of blowing my mind. And all my friends and family, when I would tell them the project I was working on and where I was going, they were mostly concerned for me. They were like, you know, how can you just go to this place that you know people, and the group that I was going with, I had just met, and this is back in 2010 when I met up with these people, and the trip was in 2011, in August of 2011, and so, you know, it took a lot of courage to tell my friends and family that, hey, I'm okay. I'm going to go to this place. I feel very pulled to take this opportunity and do something that I don't know what to expect, you know? And so I really felt I was leaving this planetary realm, this world that I knew, you know? And so I went to the moon. I went to Siberia, and I was, the biggest thing that I was the most surprised about is that the Siberian mountains, the Altai mountains that I was in, reminded me of home. I felt like I was in the North Cascades. Mount Beluga looks so much like Mount Rainier. And I've spent a lot of time on Mount Rainier, attempting to summit, you know, never quite getting there, but it doesn't matter. I've spent a lot of time there. And I just, it was really surprising to go so far away and then to feel so okay. Like I felt safe there. Now, imagine being in the complete wilderness and nobody speaks English. That was the scary thing, is that the communication was difficult. And at one point in our trek, I had an interpreter, Luna, who was at the time, she was a student at the University of Novosibirsk, but her parents lived in Altai, and she had come home for the summer to be a translator for us. And so she was a real young, very, very driven woman who we connected with almost instantly. It was like, I still feel like she's like a sister of mine, even though we live worlds away. And so midway through the trip, I got separated from her, and I ended up completely alone in the Siberian wilderness. And you know, that's that's when you dig really far inside of yourself. And I was by myself for 2 weeks before I got back to Moscow. And somehow I thought I was going there to learn about all these people and their indigenous ways and the work that they were doing, which I did learn, but I learned something much more important. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned the strength I had within myself. And I learned that I just have to follow my day.
I think that's known as putting one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Absolutely. It's, it's funny because like it brings up emotions when I think about that. Tom, you're the first person that's made me cry on a podcast.
Oh, that's not something I should be proud of.
No, it's great. I think that, when I think about how scared I was back then, it's just a reminder. I don't think about it all that often, but because I always think about the positive things that I gained from it. But it was scary. Like it was like, wow, I am like completely alone, and I know nobody, and I can't communicate with people. So I think that it's really it's been a process to, even though that was 10 years ago, to work through all of that and think like, what was the point of what I did? Like, what was the point? I don't really know even. Because our documentary project that we set out to do, we didn't really think that we had enough footage to make a story. But I think what I realized is the story doesn't have to be the preconceived idea that we have in our heads. In fact, the things we find out are even more important, like what I learned about myself and how much I could overcome. I knew that there was a story in that. And so.
Wow. I am touched just hearing about that. I was very fortunate back in the early 70s to spend a summer in Germany. It was through one of the German teachers at the high school, and he was German, and he had friends all over Germany. And what he would do is he would invite 8 to 10 students, and he would arrange for us to stay with families. So we traveled around and would spend, a week living with a German family. And I got to tell you, my German was not very good, but most everybody spoke English. Now, I've been only to one place in the world where English didn't matter, and that is in remote West Papua New Guinea.
Oh,
the language, the alphabet, you can't even, where's Sarong? I'm going to Sarong. And they just gave me this look, none of the airlines that in the airport. And so for you to be somewhere where there is absolutely no ability to communicate, but you're also isolated, you're out in the woods. That time alone for you just to think and reflect and worry and be grateful and know that you have family and love, that you're not alone. You're sharing this planet. There's a lot of people that love you. But when you're that isolated for 2 weeks without being able to talk with anybody, that clearly has impacted you, and I'm not surprised that you shed a few tears. Good for you.
No, it's and that I think that the idea that the feeling that I had when I was there, what it did when you are not able to communicate in the ways that we're used to communicating, talking to people, we're social creatures, so we want to connect with people. And I think what it did to me is something really profound that I don't think I expected, but it made me use other ways to communicate, like telepathy and psychic awareness and reading people's energies. That was a big thing, is that, you know, I would know if someone was safe based on their energy. I remember there was one point where I had to take a bus from Gorno-Altaysk to, I think I was going somewhere near Novosibirsk. And it's the same idea as what you're talking about in Papua New Guinea, is that the Cyrillic alphabet doesn't look like our alphabet. And so, you know, a place that we call Novosibirsk starts with something that looks like an R, not an N. You know what I mean? Like, so I had my notebook and I would write down the Cyrillic, you know, and I didn't even have like a smartphone to help me. I was doing this all with like a translator book. And right before I had gotten separated at the border with Luna, one of the other people in the group that I didn't really know very well, she had a little pocket translator, like a little book that was like this really small and literally fit in your pocket. And she gave that to me. And it was kind of my lifeline. It was the only way that I was able to kind of tell bus drivers or at the train station where I needed to go. And I remember I sat next to this man that was was probably a 4-hour bus ride. And he kept trying to talk to me and I didn't know what he was saying. And so we eventually figured out that I definitely didn't know any English and he didn't know I'm sorry, I didn't know Russian and he didn't know English. And, but I found out that he was from Uzbekistan. We wrote notes back and forth in the journal, and he was a very kind person. And at one point we stopped the bus stop to go like for a rest stop. And the bus driver said something and I didn't know what he said, but he kind of motioned off of the bus and some people were getting off and I really needed to use the bathroom. So I thought, I'm just going to get off and I'll follow the people to the bathroom and use the bathroom. Well, I did something that you should not do. I brought my wallet with me, but I left my backpack on the bus with that man and it had my passport in it. And I didn't even think about it because he seemed really safe. And so I came out of the bathroom and the bus was pulling away. And that man that was sitting next to me was standing outside of the bus yelling and screaming. And he was telling the bus driver to wait. And so then the bus slowed down and I ran, I feel like as fast as I've ever run before. And I jumped on the open door as this man's holding it open. And like, if he hadn't looked out for me, that my passport, everything I had to get home would have been on that bus. And, you know, I don't even know who this person is. And, you know, I have no way of contacting them to say thank you or anything. But I just remember he was like my angel that day, you know, like he didn't even know me. He had no reason to look out for my things, but he did. And so I believe in human kindness. I really do. I think that it just, you know, you can be in the middle of nowhere and still be safe.
You know, I'm moved by that story because again, it brings up serendipity. The likelihood of sitting down to this person and you couldn't communicate. But what strikes me the most is the fear, anxiety, everything chemically in your body would be going wild. My passport, my backpack, the just sheer panic that you must have been through. And for this guy to be screaming to wave down the bus reminds me of a very vivid memory as a child. I was 5 years old and I got lost in downtown Blacksburg. And I will never forget the panic and the sheer fear. And thank God, you know, there were people, adults there that looked at, here's a child by himself in distress. And that has impacted me. That memory is still strong to this day. You know, Another thing that you talk about in taking this trek to Siberia, I often read stories about people. I love people, love studying about them. And the number of young people that decide at some point in the beginning of their career or take a year off from college, basically sell everything and go on a walkabout somewhere. I mean, it can be, but they'll they'll sell all their worldly possessions and take off to do a walkabout. And I think there's to get that close to nature and meet new people, visit strange places, has a profound impact on people's lives because you're put in front of people that you would have never been exposed to, like that fellow on the bus. Another question, and Luna just sounds like such a special gal. I mean, for her those memories, that relationship. Are you still in touch? Do you hear from
Absolutely.
her?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, so a couple years ago in 2019, she had since moved to Moscow and started a pretty, she's an entrepreneur. She started a business consulting other businesses, and she was doing a conference in LA, and she contacted me out of the blue. I hadn't talked to her in a few years, and she said, "Crystal, I'm in LA. It's practically your backyard. Can I come visit?" And I was like, well, to someone from Siberia, LA and Seattle are very close. So, so she hopped on the plane and came up for the weekend and stayed with me at my house in Seattle. And she said, you know, I told my parents that I was coming to see you, and they think I'm on the moon. And I was like, what? That's how I felt when I went to see you, you know? And she's like, yeah, it's just, you know, it's a whole nother world. And so for her, coming to America was like going to the moon. And for me, going to Siberia was like going to the moon. And it's funny how we had the same like visceral feeling of like really leaving our comfort zone. And so her and I have definitely stayed in contact. I just talked to her on this weekend, actually, on Zoom. It was a very broken up conversation because her internet connection wasn't good, but she's living on Bali now. And she's doing Tai Chi and yoga every day, looking at the rice paddies and in this beautiful setting. And I think she's taking some time to herself and to really just have a very peaceful existence. And she said that this summer she's going to go back to Altai and visit her parents. And I'm organizing a global meditation group in May when I go on my trek to Mount Shasta. And she's going to be participating from Bali because all of us are meditating at high mountain areas because the energy in higher elevations is more accelerated, and Bali it's an underwater mountain. So even though it's not high as in like elevation of the planet, it still has the same energy vortexes and effect. So so she'll be transmitting all of her vibrations into the water, which in turn ripples all through the world. And you know, I think we'll be raising a lot of really good vibrations in May together.
I can feel it already. So, as you mentioned before, there are no coincidences. The fact that you would both use the word I'm going to the moon. You, though, mentioned that when you were in Siberia, you felt like you were at home because the mountain reminded you of the Cascades. Did she experience that same thing when she visited Seattle and saw the mountain? She said, I feel I'm at home.
She said that she felt very at home because I was there, and she loved the natural. So even though Siberia reminded me of the mountains, what Siberia doesn't have is the water. And so for her to see the expanse of water and then the mountains as the backdrop was, I think, you know, amazing. She saw something similar when she was down in California too, but just the expanse of the water was really profound to her. I mean, maybe that's why she's in Bali right now. Maybe she's craving that water connection. Siberia is a massive landmass. Oh. I went overnight on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and this train's going all night long, and it was just land after land after land. It's like when you're in, for me, it's more like Eastern Washington, how it kind of, when you're driving and it goes on, or somewhere in the Midwest, when you're driving through the Midwest, but it's like 10 times bigger than that.
Well, no, like I said, I've never been, and like when I visit Alaska, I am blown away at just the sheer size. So what you've just mentioned is resonating with me, and that's the ripples of water, those concentric circles that just keep growing and growing. I think that's a good segue for us to maybe start talking a little bit about the Navajo and the Hopi and their polluted water. Their aquifer is uranium,
arsenic,
and so birth defects. They can't even water. It's called a desert farming. So the very little bit of water that they get from the sky is because you can't use what's coming out of the aquifer. Then it gets into the food chain. But young people, the incidence of cancer and health issues because they don't have potable water. You're part of this circle now of the Clean Water Foundation and the airline ambassadors, and we're working feverishly to raise money and awareness about something right here in the United States, where I think the vast majority of people take it for granted that I flush my toilet with water I could drink. So curious, how did you get involved? And let's talk a little bit about the water situation there in Arizona.
Yeah. So the way I got involved with Clean Water Foundation is I had written a book called Kate is Starting to Believe in the Woo Woo. And it was following a trip that I had taken with two other friends to the Mojave Desert. And when we were in the desert, there was such a feeling, and this is during coronavirus. And, we had been with our families of 3 kids. They both have kids, and we just needed a little time away to separate ourselves from our home. It had been like almost a year where we had been just kind of cooped up, And I think you can tell I'm a very free spirit. I like to travel, and I travel with the kids, and we've been all over the world with the kids actually. And but so for me to be home for that long, I was like kind of going crazy a little bit, and they were feeling the same thing. So we went to the desert, and we just relaxed, and we connected with the earth, and we did a sound bath at the Integratron, which is I don't know if you've ever heard of the Integratron, but it's on a high energy spot in the desert that George Van Tassel had built this in the 60s. And he called it a life rejuvenating machine. And he basically thought that the vibrations inside of the chamber would help you not age. And he never was able to finish his project because he died suddenly, but a family has purchased the Integratron, and they kind of keep his dreams alive by having sound baths there. And we laid on the desert floor and listened to the vibrations of these bowls for, I believe, about an hour. And after, I wasn't sure if I was still even laying on the earth. I felt like I was floating above it. It was like this really amazing experience. And so I believe that those vibrations that kind of happened to us in the desert, we brought them back to Seattle, and I ended up writing a book about it. And then a good friend of mine owns Mob Studios in Seattle, and he in also something that I've done in my life is I used to own a design company that we would stage houses. And so he wanted my design opinion about his studio, and he wanted to know what I thought about it. And so I went down to his studio one day, and he told me to bring my books. And so I was like, okay, I'll, come visit. And I went down to the studios, and I met Leon, who was there also visiting him. I don't remember why he was there, but we started talking, and I showed him my book, and we started talking about, I mentioned, I can't remember if I had mentioned some of the travels. Oh, I know what it was. He was talking about a trip he went to Peru, and I had taken my family to Peru in like 2017. And so we were just sharing stories basically. And then he ended up telling me about the project that you guys are working on with the Hopi and Navajo. And I just instantly was like, I didn't know why I came down to Mob Studios today, but I guess I needed to meet Leon because he's working on a project that I feel like I could help make a big difference, just even with my vibrations, but also my ideas. And hopefully my involvement in the project is a positive one. And I think we're making, good progress. And I think that it is for me, it's really fun. I really like what music does to change an atmosphere. And, part of his project is to have this celebration at the end of the project to play music. And one thing that I've learned from Indigenous people that I think we lose in Western culture a lot is that, life is serious, but we need to have fun, and we need to sing, and we need to dance, and we need to enjoy this human body that we have for the time we have it. And so when Leon mentioned his concert, I was really excited. I wanted to be a part of it. And he's so kind to allow me to be a part of everything that you guys are doing. So it's a gift.
Wow. If I haven't told you, and I did tell you, but I'm crazy about my wife. And last night, while I was working, I put on our wedding CD, which is a compilation of love songs that we both picked out together. And I was literally teared up. Music is that powerful. Mm-hmm. Another thing, I'm not familiar with the Integratron, and to have that kind of an out-of-body experience, I now have to go.
Yeah.
Like you say, the vibrations and really powerful. And Crystal, thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Yeah, it's I think so before, when I went on my trip and I wrote that woo-woo book, that book, I feel like wrote itself. I just think I was the vessel with the 5 fingers to get it onto the computer screen, to get it out to the world. I don't really think I almost want to say that book was kind of channeled or something. And I wrote it, I think it's 10 chapters in 2 weeks. It was like the craziest thing. I was like kind of a crazy person, just sitting at my desk, like typing, like I had to get this out. I had no idea why. But ever since I did, I realized how important vibrations and music are to me. Because it's something I think I didn't put a lot of importance on earlier in my life. And so I've started playing music, and I think I've played my wooden flute for you before.
Yes.
And down at Mob Studios, I've played my crystal bowls, and I think when I go to Shasta, I'm going to bring my Tibetan bowls and my flute, and we're going to go to these like energy vortexes. Me and the local shaman that lives there, and we're going to play these vibrations. And so I think that we all have kind of a purpose, like a soul purpose, and I think I always thought I was a writer, but I almost feel like I'm a connector. I write stories to connect people, and I think now I play this music to connect people, hopefully to the earth, because I just feel very connected to the planet. Anytime I'm in nature is when I feel most alive, and I think there's something to that. And so I'm really hoping that as when we do our concert in the desert at the Hopi Reservation, I'm hoping that I can do a grounding ceremony in the beginning, just to play these vibrations that I feel that move through me from the ground out into the air. And hopefully, because the earth and the water and the fire and the air are all connected, that all of that is healing even for the water on the reservation. And so I know it's a bit of a stretch of the imagination to go that deep into it, but I do think even the smallest things matter. And even us having this conversation, talking about wanting to clean the water on the reservations is important, just our intention. Water can heal itself. Water has that amazing ability, and water itself can be healing. So I believe there's a way that we can use the clean water, say the filters, and hopefully we can filter out all of the poisons. I'm going to call them poisons because it's, I believe that's what's in the water is poison there.
You are absolutely right. And you know something? You are amazing. I say that because we, the Northern Europeans that came to North America and stole the Aboriginal peoples, the indigenous peoples' land, to this day, there is such distrust. It is virtually impossible for us to be successful with the Navajo and the Hopi without showing them tremendous respect and not coming in as, well, you guys have a problem, we're going to solve it, or you guys have an opportunity. No. So we've spent, Leon and I have spent a lot of time talking about how we are supporting characters. We have to take the back seat. But you've been able to develop this relationship with the wisdom keeper. You've been able to develop a relationship of trust with the Shah. So you have some secret power. And with that final thought, because you are a superstar, with that final thought, since this is a campfire, a morning campfire, I need to go out to the store and get some items for the s'mores, because I want to put those over the fire and just relish and be quiet for a moment. And I do have to run, but this has been amazing, and you are amazing.
Well, Tom, thank you. It's funny because I feel like I was going to interview you, and I feel like you interviewed me.
We had a dialogue. It was not an interview. It was a dialogue.
It's a wonderful conversation, and it's really exciting to be able to work with you in this capacity and to serve these people that, like you said, our ancestors had different actions and different intentions. But I believe that we're here right now for a reason. It's the time is now, and the time is to start making changes. And so hopefully the things that we're able to do can be those changes and to be the positive, the positive momentum, because I'll still stay optimistic.
I would not expect anything less.
Yeah. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And is there anything else that you want to add for anybody listening?
Oh, nothing. There's nothing more to add. I need to be silent now and reflect on this most lovely conversation. And I'm humbled and honored that you would want to chat with me today.
Thank you. I as I am too. So it's been a pleasure, and enjoy the sun out there, because I think that it's shining bright today.
Yes, we are headed toward possibly record-breaking weather here in Seattle for the spring, and I cannot wait.
I know. I'm excited. I have a saltwater pool in my backyard, and I'm planning on swimming in it this weekend.
Wow. Well, good for you. And once again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great day.
All right. You too. Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. I want to give a little more information about the Clean Water for Hopi fundraiser that Tom and I were discussing. The Hopi and Navajo have been protecting the planet Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. Arsenic-3, arsenic-5, uranium, and vanadium are all chemicals that have been found in the water supply on the Hopi and Navajo land. The arsenic levels are 2 to 4 times higher than the EPA allows as safe. Arsenic is known to cause many types of cancer, including skin cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, just to name a few. Vanadium can cause vascular disease, paralysis, and can damage the entire nervous system. The two tribes have seen dramatic rises in diabetes and cancer in not only their elders, but the youth as well. The average lifespan of the natives who live on Hopi land is a staggering 47 years old. Something must be done. Let this be a unification of water protectors around the world. Please help us get clean water to the Hopi and Navajo tribes. Thank you. With love and gratitude. If you like what I'm creating here on my virtual campfire, please subscribe and give me 5-star reviews so that I know these conversations are worthwhile to others. I love doing this, and I hope you love listening. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my virtual campfire. I'm humbled and grateful, and with heartfelt thanks, thank you for listening all the way to the end. I hope that it caused a vibration or a thought or sparked something inside of you to make a positive change. I have added a link to the description of this episode, as well as on my website, crystalkelly.com, to the GoFundMe page that helps us with our project to get clean water to the Hopi and Navajo reservation.